Welcome to the NFT Podcast, Allo. It's a pleasure to have you here. And how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Great. So I know that you are an augmented reality artist. This is our topic of today. But let's start with some step back. So what's your story and how you arrived and how did you become an AR artist? And how good is to be an AR artist in 2021?
That it's funny, but so my background is in marketing and advertising. I was in an advertising agency for about 15, 20 years. And what's kind of funny is I was doing augmented reality and VR stuff for digital clients, I mean, 10, 15 years ago. And it was too ahead of its time. Like I was working on clients for like Pizza Hut and Diet Coke, and we were doing all of these really cool augmented reality print materials. And people just didn't know that stuff existed on their phones. It required an app download, which it still does for the most part. And then you fast forward, 15, 20 years, I stopped working in advertising, started working on a startup, and thinking I would have less time. I actually had a little bit more time. And so I started painting at night and came up with this concept and was designing a website that had this really cool, like parallax movement. And once I designed the site, I was like, oh my, like it just clicked. I was like, I can do this with an app. I can do this on my phone, just show off some of the inspiration behind all of the work I'm doing, which is really, I'm taking old iconic images that we all have. We have all of these millions of like images of, all of these famous paintings and Marilyn Monroe with her dress coming up, from the wind being blown. Like we have all of these images stored. And I started recreating them very minimally and very like cubist kind of simplistic kind of style. And I said, you know what, I want to show off that inspiration. And so I took the very simple, basic AR stuff, which is, hey, let me recognize the image that I'm painting and let me swap it to the inspiration. But when I think back to what we were doing, for like big brands, it was like sheets of like printed paper and it was like 3D animation. It was like way over the top. So I ultimately want to get back to that when I'm doing AR for my paintings and even for the NFTs because they interact with the NFTs. I want to get back to more like video and 3D stuff, but it's going to take some collaborations because I've kind of since dropped 3D a while back ago.
Awesome, awesome. So, like, you were in this space 15 years ago. I probably was like at the elementary school, and you were already playing with augmented reality. That's crazy. Like, I thought that it was like maybe people that had augmented reality 20, 15 years ago. I thought it was just people in the aerospace industry because I know that like VR and AR they born there because astronauts needed them in order to exercise, to train without spending all the money, all the risk of being in the other space. So really awesome that you were in this space from there. And okay, you mentioned, so it seems like being in this space, like you know how to build user experience, you know how customers and how people today they are still not so familiar with this kind of technology, but of course it's something that we're going to emerge. And so you created an app, right? You created an app about AR, and can you tell me more about this app and how does it work and why you created it?
Yeah, absolutely. So you talked about people not being ready or learning this new technology. What's kind of funny is I equated a little bit to my even like my business card. I wonder if I have one sitting around here somewhere. Like one of these cards, like I've always had these like QR codes on my business cards and everything because it's like I like the tech and I was trying to get people to download the app fast enough. And no one knew what it was, right? It's like it's kind of geeky, it's kind of dorky, it was too techy. But then enter COVID, right? And now all of our menus at our restaurants are QR codes. So people just
Yeah.
instinctively learned and got ready for it. And I think that's what happened with AR. I was working on it 10 years ago, but it took like people knowing that, oh man, my phone can do a lot cooler things and figured out, oh, that's really, really neat. So yeah, so like I said, what got me into doing augmented reality in my art was, um, I started painting all of these iconic images, and I some of them you can tell. Like if you look at any of the body of my work, you can see that like, oh, that's a Marilyn Monroe from Andy Warhol, or oh, that's a Starry Night from Van Gogh. Like I can see some of those, whether it's through shape or form, or sometimes it's the color that gives it away. Like the Mona Lisa's got all those like greens and purples and golds. Like I could mix those colors on a palette and you go, oh, you're going to paint the Mona Lisa. I can see it. And so I didn't want to like pretend that I'm like recreating all of these famous pieces of works of art. Like, no, like we're all inspired. And so I just wanted, I'm a rule breaker and I wanted my shows to be interactive. I wanted a user experience that was like something no one had ever seen before in a gallery setting. And so worked with a friend of mine, we developed this app. And what's funny is I tell everyone it has no demographic. Like normally when you see a painter or a type of art, it skews older, it skews younger, it skews more female, or it skews more male. The art that I've been doing, I've seen 4-year-olds with the app that are just like all smiles, and then I've seen 80-year-olds with their all smiles. I'm like, what is this magic that you're doing? This weird, like, it's in real time. The phone's working, and it's been really really fun. Just showing off what your phones can do, what these computers in your pocket can do.
Awesome. So what's the name of the app?
The name of the app is Masters. That's what it's called, but no vowels, so MSTRS, and
Okay.
it's available in the App Store right now.
Okay,
Yep.
awesome. So basically, the way this app works is that can I use it with any 2D print or piece that I've got, or not, or do I need to create this piece in order to be read from this app?
So the way the app works, what I tell people, it is a Snapchat filter on steroids, right? So Snapchat, the way it works, yeah, it's on crack, right? So the Snapchat, it reads your eyes, it reads your chin, and it kind of follows those things around. So you'll notice, like, if you turn your head, that's when you're using Snapchat, the app will kind of glitch out and it'll break because it doesn't recognize your eyes anymore or where your chin is. What my app does is it recognizes all of those parts and pieces. Like I have a little like graphic right here. So it'll recognize all of these parts and triangles and colors in this exact arrangement. So my app, if you hold it up, it's constantly looking in the world for all of these triangles for every single one of my pieces in this exact colorway. And when it recognizes it, it says, "Oh, I know what that piece is. I'm going to show you the inspiration behind that work."
Awesome, absolutely awesome. And like, what's the so just you see the way in which this piece like takes life. So you see it around you, that takes life. And have you got any more features that you want to add to this app? New way for people to interact with your pieces, or you just prefer to keep it like the way in which you just use this app to on a 2D piece and it becomes like 3D?
So the immediate new features that I want to try to launch was are going to be I want more information on my app. So originally, what the app was intended to be before the paintings took off, and I don't have any time to update the app, was like I tell people all the time. My mom was a mathematician, and my dad was a chemist by trade, and that's what they studied in school. So I wasn't privy to art growing up. I didn't take one art class in college. Like I didn't just didn't have access to a lot of art or museums when I was growing up. So a lot of what I learned and a lot of the pieces that I fell in love with, I was all self-taught. And so what I wanted the app to do was, and what I want it to do is, you hold it up to my pieces or our work, and it flips obviously to the inspiration, whether it's a Frida Kahlo or Diego Rivera or Joy Lavelle. I want you to be able to tap it flip again, and get some more information about the artist, about that piece of work, what they were feeling, what they were thinking, just really quick bullet points, right? Like nothing in depth like Wikipedia or something like really, really crazy long. But I want people to engage more and learn more about art and make it more fun and accessible. I oftentimes tell people that I'm painting all of this work for myself when I was 5 or 8 years old, because I didn't have access to it. And I'm constantly trying to tell myself, if I had access to all of this when I was 8, who knows the type of work I'd be doing right now. And so I paint them for my younger self, which is pretty crazy. And then the second thing I'd really like to do with the app is obviously just incorporate like video and 3D and do stuff that's just like takes the art to the next level versus just showing off an inspiration. I'd like to have like a 1-2 combo, right? Where it's like you see my art and then something else happens where it's more art, and then maybe some inspiration.
Awesome.
And then, like always, like I'm always breaking rules. So I've reverse engineered my app. So if you look in my like Instagram feed, if you can scroll far enough, maybe I'll repost it here shortly for everyone that's watching. But I went to the Dallas Museum of Art, which is Dallas's big museum, right, where it houses all of the big name arts. And I went into the Latin American section of that gallery, and I took photos of every single piece, and they're all 33 of them. And what I did was I reverse engineered it, so you could hold my app up to a Frida Kahlo in that gallery, and it'll flip to my art. So I essentially have a solo art show in the Dallas Museum of Art. I didn't ask for permission. They kind of got upset that I did it, but it's just kind of fun that I'm playing like in a weird. Banksy used to famously go up to an art gallery and just put his own work up. It's kind of what I did, but in augmented reality. So if you look, it's really fun just to see like people holding up the app inside of this gallery setting that I'm not supposed to be a part of or was given permission to do, and it flips to all my art. It's kind of fun.
That was a really smart move, but I think that you are allowed to do it. It's just an app on their phone, so they can download it, they can use it, and they can do what they want. And that's amazing.
It's a,
It's your way of being in all these exhibition. Like you are not with your piece there, but your app is transforming the piece there like it's yours. Amazing. That was a smart move. So you mentioned different things, and for example, that you want to add new features in which you can see something about the artist. And you remembered me some exhibitions into the metaverse, into crypto voxels, and into other exhibitions. So I'm gonna ask you how your app is, if it's already is, or if it's not, is linked, or it's going to be linked to NFTs. Did you think about this? About that, or you just want to keep it away from NFTs?
you know what? So it's interesting, right? Like I'm actively trying to think of how to make things interactive. You read about NFTs that are going to be moving towards coded NFTs where they interact with time or they interact with the price of Ethereum
Yeah,
or any other cryptocurrency. So you're starting to read about like these NFTs that are like either eroding with time or building with time and just changing and ever like different, which is fascinating to me.
yeah,
I think that there's space for interactive video or interactive something, whether it's bringing back some sort of Flash type technology. Because remember when Flash was really big and we were making these interactive sites and they would like interact with you or they would, read your camera and interact with you in that way. I think some of that may come back, and I would love to start experimenting with how do you make NFTs interactive, as it is because the art is just literally translated into digital medium. You can
yeah.
hold my app up to the screen and interact with it that way. But I want to actively try to push further and see what you can do to make it more fun and exciting.
Yeah, please let us know because I'm very interested in like how to make NFTs interactive with a kind of this AR app. The first idea that comes to my mind is imagine that someone buys your piece and they use your app that is really your piece, and that piece that they have, it changes over time in the sense that the physical one is the same, but if you use the app now, if you use the app in 1 month and 1 year from now, you'll see different thing. The problem is how can you like code, how like in the back end, how can you create something that is going to change and based on what? That's I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to imagine something like this. Maybe you've got more tips around this.
Yeah, so I don't think anyone knows. I think that's what's so interesting about NFTs and this new digital art medium that's happening. I think the most unknown part is that it is digital and that there can be code behind it. And truthfully, it's the wild, wild west, right? I don't think anyone's figured it out. And so it's going to take, I tell people all the time, like, I'm so busy right now that I wish I had more time just to focus on versus working for the art because it's happening so fast. Like, I know I'm going to miss some sort of book. I'm like, damn, that was a freaking dope idea. Like, I could have thought of that. Like, if I just had more, like, just time to sit in a think tank and just, like, play with other creatives.
No, please. My suggest is like dedicate more time on this because if you're going to create something like this, you're going to be very rewarded, especially because you were into this world 15 years ago. So
Right.
the way of being early is something that will be very rewarded. But I don't know. Maybe you can just create a sort of languages like that an AI base it evolves like there will be already something I think that an AI based on some inputs but also without based on some input just going to work. For example, I suggest you to watch at Lamelo NFT. He is the basketball player, and
Oh, yeah.
he created an NFT that is going to evolve over time based on his performance into the NBA. I've got no idea about how it's work, but I just spent 40 bucks to buy it because I want to stay updated, and just it was just 40 bucks. So it for me it's like the price of learning. If I just bought it, I know I will keep following this and I will understand more about how it will evolve, so that we are going. I think it's something very new. So we are going to see something new about
I think
this.
so
And
too.
yes, and
What's curious, what's cool about Lamello too is I think he's also experimenting, and I think a lot of artists are with tangible, like physical assets. When you buy that NFT, like I think some of them come with like game tickets and like all kinds of like meet and greets. I think there's going to be a lot of that too, which is interesting.
yeah, definitely. And I wanted to ask you a question about the app because it's something that I'm sure a lot of people still don't have clear. Also, if the Apple Store exists from a lot of time, how difficult is, how challenges in how the process works of creating an app and uploading into the Apple Store.
So, funny story about the Masters app that we developed. So, I worked with a friend of mine at Pushplay, and we were working on that app for about 8 months. Like no lie, just trying to code it. And the thing that was giving us the most challenging part of the app was that we had to shoot all of my work in different light settings, like yellow light, white light, blue light, you know, and then all the way down to like it's low lighting, all the way to bright light. And then we had to shoot it at different angles. So each piece had like, I don't know, maybe 25 to 30 different images of that same piece. And it was a nightmare. And I can't imagine having to do that now for all of the hundreds of pieces that are in the app. Um, but so we were working on it for about 8 months. And then about 8 months in, Apple drops this AR kit that does all of that work for you. It's just so smart and so brilliant that the geniuses at Apple did it again. And so what we did was we scrapped all of that work that we did for 8 months and redeveloped our app like in 2 weeks. And in 2 weeks, it handled all of the different low light settings, the different angles. I mean, it so smartly recognizes the the app. I think what was the hardest about starting developing was just all the licenses were kind of tricky to me. You know, it wasn't as easy as like, hey, I signed up for Foundation through an invite, and I just uploaded an image and it minted it by itself and it listed it by itself, and it was kind of nice. There's a lot of hiccups around becoming an app developer and paying that $100 fee. And then just uploading to the store. So I find myself with NFTs getting behind on my apps, on the app updates, because I can develop NFTs faster than the Apple Store can sometimes approve an update. So I just got to remember that the updates take, anywhere from a day to 2 to 3 days sometimes to update. And so, oftentimes when I'm bringing a piece to the gallery, I'm like, please app update while I get there. And then by the grace of God, it updates, and then that piece is like good to hang on the wall.
Ah, I got it. So you need to update the app every time, and this process requires, I don't know, 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. How much does this require this kind of feedback with the team of Apple?
Uh, Normally we've got it down to a science. So it takes about 2 days in total. So when
Ah, 2 days.
yeah, 2 days. Yeah, I update the app. I put the new images in because it's got to be able to like read my images and then convert to like the inspirational image. And then you submit it and it goes in for review, and then they like review it for a little bit. Sometimes they'll kick it back as in, hey, not too much changed, or you need something technical on the back end. But for the most part, 2 days, and it's updated.
Awesome. So, I made you this question because now we are moving into another world that is the world of decentralized apps, dapps. So in relation of this, how are you going to move? Do you think that in terms of like time spent and feedback received from the Apple Store and from the team, it's awesome? Of course, it's awesome to work with these people. But do you think that are you going to move your app into and build it on a blockchain so it will be a decentralized app? And if yes, how do you think that is going to change your workflow in terms of time, in terms of cost, in terms of anything else that I don't know what an app developer needs to think about?
Wow, that's a great question and something I haven't thought about. What I have been thinking about is moving away from the App Store in general and developing some sort of a web app. And the only reason why I say that is we've been really slow to launch this Android app, and so many people use Androids, and I only have an app for my for Apple and for the App Store. And so I get a lot of like, oh, you need to do it for my Samsung phone. Oh, you need to do it for this, and it's like I just again just haven't had time to develop that section. So if I could get it to where I could just do it on a web app where you would just go to allo.art/whatever, whatever that URL becomes, given the access to your camera on any phone, any device, whether it's a tablet or a phone, it would do it there, so that I don't have to be reliant on an app or an app store to like publish something. I can do it kind of live on my back end. And B, I'm getting to the point where the app is getting so big because there's so many images in it that you may need. I'm about 50% capacity right now, but I'm going to get to a part where you're going to need to be on a Wi-Fi to download it. The really, really big apps require Wi-Fi, and I'm desperately trying not to do that. So I'm, you know, condensing my images down and pushing them down so much where the image quality suffers a little bit than I like, but at least it still flips and it's still cool. It's just not really high def images now. But there's a lot of hiccups that I'm doing at the speed that I'm going and at the rate of which people want work done, which is a great problem to have. I'm about to like blow through my app download without Wi-Fi requirement.
Got it, got it. Yeah, absolutely. No, I think that if you wanted like to create some NFTs linked features to your app, I think that you definitely need to consider to create something like this, at least a beta version on the blockchain, because if you're going to be a blockchain engineer now, you're going to be very, very rewarded in the future. And it's so easy for you, I think, like if you just go on DAP University on YouTube or on other courses, it's just very easy for you to develop an app on the blockchain. And I think that once you do this, you are going to have all the ideas and all the creativity that are going to close you the full circle and say, oh, now I can do this. Oh, now I can do this. Oh, now I can do that.
More freedom to do a lot more things, because coding for an app is different than coding for
Yes.
a site, and you have way more freedom outside of it. I feel like in
Yeah.
my personal like development skill set.
I think what you are going to need more one day with this app is the kind of interoperability between different devices, between different communication systems, different technologies, different NFT platforms. So if you're going to create this your NFT on different platform, you want that any of these platform is going to link to this app. Anyway, why you are talking so much about an app? Because I think that to be an augmented reality artist, you also need to be a technician. So this is why I think that it's so important for you, because we can talk about art how much you want, but I think that for what we are doing, it's really important to be this like so balanced kind of techie profile and kind of creative profile. So what do you think about this? And do you think that now that we've got NFTs, blockchain, that we are in this period, in this era, do you need it to require more, not just business knowledge from artists, but also tech knowledge about how the standards work in the NFTs and the blockchain?
Yeah, you hit on I think what differentiates me from a lot of artists right now. And a couple of things just popped up when you were talking. One is I am strange in that I am very artsy, but I'm also very techy too. Like I love numbers and I love science. Like my favorite classes in school were always physics, maths, sciences. Like I favored those classes versus the art class, and I think that's just because of my upbringing. And I tell people all the time, when I was in advertising, I was the odd creative director who had an MBA. I had my master's in business from SMU here in Dallas, and my focus was on marketing and strategy, because I like the business aspect of everything, and I like the numbers aspect of everything. Um, and not that there aren't techie artists. Like there's some artists that are 3D like geniuses. They just can produce everything, and to some point, I wish I'd kept that up, because I think NFTs tend to favor that artistically, but at the same time, there's so much 3D art that I like, that mine's very like simple and very flat and very art, but also like this weird merge of digital. And I think with this platform, to answer your question even more so, it lending this new medium being digital, I think it's going to require traditional artists, who I've talked to, a lot of them are a little bit fearful of all the tech involved with it. And they're like, I don't even know how to mint things. I'm like, it's not hard. You just upload your image and it's minted. You just pay to mint it. You don't have to do the coding behind minting. But moving past just minting, there's things that we're going to do that are interactive, that someone's going to do something that just blows their mind. And I hope that I continue to progress with my merging of digital and creative and figure that something out. To your point, I have to make time to like sit and just think and just get lost in the weeds of art and tech and just create something that no one's seen before. I think it's going to be important in NFC space.
Absolutely, yeah. You're making me realizing for the first time that maybe so many people think, oh, I wasn't good at math, at physics at school, so I make art, I make literature, so I make this kind of creative job. But today, I think that thanks to NFTs, thanks to digital art, if you have got this tech knowledge, your art is going to increase. Because I'm sure that if you didn't have, I'm not sure, like I'm probably sure that if you didn't have this kind of tech background, you will never arrive to this kind of creative process. Because for you, that you are more a tech person, so more an analytical mind, your I think it's the left hemisphere or the right hemisphere, the one related to tech.
I forget which one it is too. Yeah,
I don't, re-
but I'm both.
I
Yeah,
don't remember.
true.
Like, but you have got both, and I think that they feed each other in this. And your art comes from something that is more calculated. And I think that we are in a point of humanity in which taste can become like can generate data, so you can analyze. It's not like the beauty, like the taste, especially of this kind of art. It's not just based on a completely subjective level, but I think that you can start to elaborate some kind of analytics of data to understand, okay, this art that I created, this augmented reality piece that I created, it's got more success. But okay, why it's got more success? Just for the colors, just for the things that I painted, or is there some pattern, some mathematical pattern behind that triggers something in the mind of the people that let them think, okay, this is very good, but it's subconscious that like keeps their minds up in order to think that this piece is better than the others. Have you ever think about something like that?
It's funny. I was just talking about that. So, we were talking a little bit earlier before you started recording, but I was part of NFTs or Dallas's first NFT show here with this company called Artist Uprising, and it was really cool and it was really fun. And a lot of the artists that I was showing them along with have this very like expressionistic, like they can, and we talk about like the process, and they're like, and I would ask like, how long does it take to make one of your pieces? And one of the artists was like, if I'm in a good zone and a good mind state, a couple of hours, like I can just throw up all of this stuff, and it's kind of just, it's very emotional, like my art. And then you look at someone like me who's like, my art's very calculated. You can tell I'm mathematical because it's so sharp and so
Yeah.
crispy and so like thought out. And each one of the pieces that I paint takes at least 4 weeks to like 2 months, because I have to wait for paint to dry and I can't
Each
paint
one
canvas.
piece requires 4 weeks up to 2 months.
That's correct. Yeah, physical pieces that I paint. The digital pieces, obviously, I can render and create a lot faster. But I told him there's a spectrum of art, right? Like while I kind of envy the fact that I can't make a piece in 2 hours, I also like the fact that I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum. My art is very calculated, and it's very it's so different and so flat versus all of the layer and the texture that you get with some of the other artists. So what I would say to that is just like, it doesn't matter. You could be completely science and math based and not a lick of art. Like some of the art I see that's using like programming to do all of the like the motion and the gradients, and um, you can do all of that, and suddenly you're an artist because you can code something beautiful that I couldn't, or that someone who's very expressionistic and only works in a canvas medium with oils or acrylics, they can't do. So I think what NFTs did is not only even the playing field for someone like me who had less than 2,000 followers when I started minting, going against people who had hundreds of thousands of followers and are verified on so many different platforms. But also, it even did as far as like, I'm very artsy, but someone who's very tech background can also mint and make some really good progress and challenge other artists that have been doing it for a long time. I think it's really cool.
Awesome. Absolutely great point. Yeah, this is very interesting because like you're making me realizing that so I'm with you, because some people around me tell me, oh, okay, you can be so much analytical, you can spend too much time working, and sometimes you need to relax, making art without thinking. But you are saying the opposite, like these kind of arts come from analytic process, and this is why I think that your style, your artwork style is very clear. Of course, I'm going to link all your artworks here in the description because people are going to see your profile. But I think that something is start to become, at least for me, this is my personal thought about your pieces, starts becomes hypnotic. Like I see your pieces and they have got something in common that they I really love. Like there is some this kind of shapes, this kind of colors. Your brain starts to understand that they are not just there for cause, like in a casual way. Like there is I cannot say a purpose, but almost a purpose from your mind to try to reproduce these kind of patterns. And because your heart is made of shape, so it's not a kind of art that is like not with shape. I don't know how to say in other terms. It's more. It comes out more. Let's say you really realize this kind of style, this kind of calibrated precision, and that's amazing because I think you develop a kind of like dependence on this kind of art. You want one and you want another one. You want to see another one. You want to buy another one. I hope for your collectors that are going to buy this. So
It's been really
really,
fun, you know. Yeah, not to cut you off, sorry. But it's been really fun speaking kind of to that. Like, you know, I can refresh a Rembrandt right next to a Warhol, and the colors are drastically different, the compositions are different, and if you'd put them next to each other in an art show, you'd be like, what kind of, schizophrenic, art director would put these two pieces next to each other?
yeah,
Because they're so different in style and in taste and maybe subject matter. But when I refresh these pieces and you put them all together, even though the colors are so drastically different, and that's part of the fun, is I can paint one piece and use a lot of hot pinks, and then go to the next piece and it's a lot of browns and muted colors. It all works together, and it's really fun to watch. And sometimes, you'll look at the work and go, you know what, you'll look at it as just like a bunch of beautiful like gems and diamonds and shapes. And then once you know the subject matter, you can't unsee it, and that's kind of fun too.
yeah.
For collectors to come into a room full of the work and just try to guess all of the artists that I've refreshed, it's pretty fun to do too.
Yeah, yeah, because like the app that you built, like create some images coming from the one that is like the one that you've got painted, that it's kind of blurry version of the other one.
Mhm.
But once you see the one in augmented reality, like it seems for you that they are the same. Like your mind start recording this. I think that's very powerful, and you need to go deeper into like how the brain works inside this kind of art because you will be definitely a mathematician of art. Okay, before going to talk about your drop on crypto.com, that is something that I'm very proud of you. I want to come take a step back in your background because you've got a background in marketing, advertising, and me too. Like I started my career with this, so I'm very excited to talk about to someone that is came from this career and go to the heart. What's your marketing advice to artists? And what, or better, like what's your marketing strategy? What's your advertising strategy? In your general advertising strategy in the way of you, in which you build awareness upon your artworks?
You know what? So that's a great question, and I get asked that all the time, because of the success I've had with NFTs and just the number of sales I've had. If you look at I've only minted on Foundation by the way, up until this point, up into this new crypto drop that's about to come out. Knowing that there's so many really good marketplaces for NFTs, I always start small and then grow. So I knew that strategically, even to this point, when I went to another platform, I wanted it to be purposeful, and purpose is very, very important to me. So that would be my advice, and the advice that I give others that ask is just be purposeful. Like everything that I do on my Instagram, which is pretty much where I like live and breathe and stay, is very purposeful. Like I find posts that perform really well, not just in likes, but not just follows, but like things that get a lot of interaction, comments, DMs, from them, and I try to stay there. So once I like find what people like, I just try to keep posting them, but also vary them a little bit, so that it doesn't get so monotonous and so boring. I'm also someone that likes to just not bore the snot out of someone, but like you also have to have variation and consistency. So you can tell like my style of post, you can tell my style of work, and I would just say just be purposeful, be truthful to who you are. I think a lot of people who are minting NFTs right now are struggling to find a concept, and so you see a lot of I'm making an NFT just to make an NFT. And I would say find a purpose, find a concept, like art wise, and then mint some of that stuff. And that to me, those are my favorite artists, the ones that have done a really good job of translating whatever they're doing conceptually and purposefully into the NFT space and maybe leveling up because you can in digital.
Awesome. So like you say that you live and breathe on Instagram, so you are present there, you interact, and do you push in the sense that you push to a specific target, or you just think that by creating art, the community builds itself and people just share your artworks?
Yeah, so I believe in pushing for sure. I tend to make my wall all about my work, and then I also what I tend to put on my stories are sharing other artists. So I've made a lot of friends in the NFT space, which has been really fun. I interact with everyone. Anyone who asks for a foundation invite, anyone who says, "Oh, your work's cool" or "Your work's dope," I interact with them and start conversations with them because I think a lot of it's karmatic. I think the good that you put out in the world and the ripple you make talking about others also comes back to you in the same energy and the same being real, like an authentic way. I think if you're authentically pushing really artists, which I do all the time, I find art fascinating in all kinds of spectrums, and I push those works, and I tell people, hey, follow, or like I've started collecting NFTs as well, and just bragging about the pieces that I own, which is really neat. I think that comes back to you, and so that's my philosophy is I push, not so that I get it back, but it just kind of comes back anyway if you're doing it authentically.
Awesome. So I'm sure that the community that you built, also if it's not a huge community, but it's a good community with 3,000 people, 200,000, no, 3,000 people that follows you. I'm sure that this kind of community really knows you, really knows your work, really has got the opportunity to interact with you. So I think that you've got the base to build a new layer, what I like to call the second layer of value that comes from NFTs. So have you ever thought about adding some kind of utility to the NFT that you created? And do you know what I'm talking about utility
No.
tokens? So utility tokens is, for example, have you seen the project of Gary Vee, Be Friends?
Yeah, I
Okay,
have.
the kind of utility that he had is like, okay, you're going to buy my NFT, you're going, and the NFT itself, it's a ticket for a multi-year conference that I'm going to have for the next 3 years. So the kind
Right.
of utility, yes, here is just, okay, you're going to have this ticket, but in this conference you're going to meet amazing people, amazing entrepreneurs, everyone in the NFT world. They are all part of this community. But for example, this is just one other thing. For example, for artists can be like meet me in person, have like 1 hour of augmented reality session with me, like tutorial, or maybe having a tutorial with me, having access to someone, to my network, having access to my time, have a sort of like special message when the new feature of my app is coming out. So have you thought about something like this, or do you think now that it will be interesting for you to not just have a digital copy, let's say an NFT of your artwork, but also had this kind of utility? Also because you are about to drop in now with crypto.com, and I followed crypto.com since the beginning. When the first artist that dropped here was Boss Logic, was Snoop Dogg.
Mhm.
They were the first that dropped the crypto.com, and people that know both these NFT, they're very happy about the NFT in the sense that it's an amazing piece. But what they saw about crypto.com is that they can incentivize more like the secondary market, and I think that a way to incentivize more the secondary market is just it's also creating some kinds of utility, so creating a sort of gamification around the kind of NFT that you are going to create. So that's just my suggest from you, since what I learned from this NFT podcast, because I think that NFT utility is something very rewarding in real life, and just if it something came up to your mind, you are always in time to add to your NFTs, and I'm sure that your community will be more than glad to see something like this.
Yeah, so I've thought a lot of like utility, like what I call tangible things that can go along with NFTs. I had a few lives on Instagram and they did really well. And I had a lot of questions from collectors early on when I started minting, which was kind of fun. So I definitely thought about giving time, but when I think about my time right now, I count hours in the day. I get like 3, 4 hours of sleep every night because if I'm not working on the startup that I'm working on, I'm either painting, and if I'm not painting, I'm working on NFTs, and if not working on NFTs, I'm working to fulfill like prints that people are, bless you, uh, um, prints that people are ordering. So I've thought of just really simply just like I've reserved pretty much all of my number ones on all of my prints and give them out very sparingly to either like big time collectors or close friends and family. Like I give the number ones away for those. But when we talk about NFTs, like I'd love to be able to ship that number one print to go with that NFT as well. Um, an artist I just met at that Dallas show, he's got these. He's working to gift some of these really dope looking uh, like frames, digital frames, so that like when you buy one of his NFTs, not only will he sometimes paint a painting for you, but he'll gift these digital frames as well. So I've thought about doing that as well. Just because they look so cool, and it's like, how do you show an NFT once you buy it? Like collectors don't know that yet, and I think the market will catch up eventually, and it's starting to. But just things to keep pushing that like digital art's not going anywhere. So I think there needs to be more tangible type things to go along with NFTs, whether it's time or gifts.
Yes, yes, absolutely. I agree with this. Can agree with like with your enthusiasm that you can do something like this because it will be very rewarding. Okay, so just to close, I'd like to talk more about your NFT drop on crypto.com and like behind the scene, how does it work for an artist to be featured on crypto.com?
You know what? It's never luck, right? I've had people say, "Hey, man, you're so lucky! Like, dude, you're doing incredible things on NFT, and you get all these wonderful opportunities." And through a lot of discussion with a lot of artists, not just a few, a lot, we all kind of unanimously said that there's no luck involved, right? Like, we can all make NFTs, so that takes off the idea that I'm creating and I got lucky making NFTs. But it's all about timing and talent, and all of that work. To your point, when we talk about my past of making, you know, digital, interactive, experiential like design, whether it's augmented reality or anything else that I created in my professional career, it got me to this point where I was ready when the timing hit, when NFTs struck, and happened to do really well. And so, the timing part is that I got reached out to by crypto.com. One of their brand managers reached out via Instagram and said, "Hey, love the wall, love your feed, love your art, love what you're doing on Foundation," and said, "Would you want to mint with crypto?" He was like, "All of the artists that we promote and we email on, we send out to our group of collectors and then open it up to the market, but we sell out." And truthfully, I thought it was really interesting, not only because they're so big, right? Like they're one of the biggest wallets in the world. I mean, everyone knows who they are, and so I was flattered. And but also, what's really cool is again, I hold what markets that I want to mint very very close to my chest. So this will be the second market that I'm in, aside from Foundation. And what's really cool about crypto.com is they're going to not only mint 5 of my pieces, but they're going to do editions. And that's the very first time that there'll be editions, and there'll be lower price points because, again, I keep going back to my past and not having access to art. I priced my art originally, like my pieces, affordably. What I think are affordable for what art and how much time and effort and energy goes into the pieces and the work. But I want people to have my work. And so when I see my NFTs sometimes going for 4 ETH or 2 ETH or 1 ETH, like that makes it unaccessible. And I want everyone to have my work. I gift my prints a lot. I price them to where they're really affordable so that you can have the art. I give away cards, collectible cards all the time, and stickers. So I'm really, really happy that for the first time that it's a fixed price for this crypto.com drop. They're going to be $250 each. I'm minting 5 at 25 each. And so this is going to be the first time where I have a lot of friends and families and collectors that haven't collected NFT that are going to say, I'm kind of scared to spend a couple $1,000s in Ethereum on it, but like for 250, it's worth it. It's worth a shot to own a piece, And so I'm super excited and so happy that they reached out to me. I don't think it's anything that you can apply for or ask for. I think they just kind of randomly see what's happening in the market and who's kind of hot and who's selling a lot of pieces. And it's kind of, they don't want any. I doubt they want any flops too. So they try to pick artists that are doing really well or have high visibility. And I've just been fortunate enough to have that visibility and caught their eye. It's kind of fun.
Congrats for that. Absolutely.
Thank you.
So you say that as an artist, you don't they think about all the process of selling. So they decide that they set the price, they set the date, they set the amount of pieces, and you just need to say that okay, I want to submit my work or not. And of course, thank you for doing this. Okay.
Yeah, the process was kind of cool. So they originally wanted 3, and I was like, you know what, let's do 5. I like 5. It sounds like a nicer number. And after seeing a lot of and doing the research of the other drops, I was like, 5 sounds like a good, number to mix. And then we worked with the pricing. They suggested that, based on what my art has sold on Foundation and what they feel like they could sell them for, we kind of worked to get to that price. So they were really, really fun and easy to work with. And what's great about them is they pay to mint and list everything, so it's very, very low, like it's very low risk for the artist to work with Crypto.com, and so I just enjoyed working with them, and I can't wait for them to drop. My day got pushed back a little bit, so I'm just anxious, and some of my collectors are really anxious, but I can't wait to start, like pushing and bragging about it. It's gonna be fun.
Awesome. So yeah, of course, they already have got a great audience and a great collection is that you can come up with. Okay.
Right.
So I don't know how much time you still have, but I'd like to ask you a last question that is about your general perspective about the augmented reality world, because you have been here since 15 years. So what are we going to see in the next 15 years?
Wow. I wish if I knew the answer, I'd be doing it right now, right? Like I don't know what you're gonna see in 15 years. What I will say is though is augmented reality has been for a long time. There's been apps that have launched a long time ago where when you're traveling and if you're traveling into a place with a different language, you can hold up augmented reality apps and it'll swap the signs into whatever language you need them to read. So like the applications of augmented reality, I think have been sparse and like but very like I mean robust. Like there's a lot of things you can do, and what's funny is I'm doing the very minimal like basic type augmented reality stuff with my app. But I think it's going to become more apparent and more in everyday life. My kiddo has just got an Oculus Rift, and so they're playing in virtual reality almost every day now. And I think a little bit of that's going to translate into real life. I think in our just everyday life, things that we interact with, print, art. I think sites are going to become more interactive, and I don't know the answer. I wish I did, like I said, because then I would be way ahead of the game. But I
So
know enough to know that it's going to be an everyday life type thing, just like I think NFTs will.
So let's say yes, that maybe the answer is that a kind of doubt is related more to the industry. So the industry that are going to rise more with augmented reality are the one related to crypto and to gaming. So this is kind of your first expectation, or do you think that there is already a project or some kind of project emerging in a total other industry that will be disrupting with augmented reality?
No, I think you hit it right on the nail right on the head. I think it's going to be in every industry. I think it's going to be in travel already. It's you can download apps like this. I think it's going to be in tech where new MacBooks and tablets and all kinds of things are going to be more interactive. And I think it's going to be up to artists, just like it always has, right? You give a tool to an artist and they find something completely different and flip it on its app and something new to do with it. And so for me to be one of the first to be doing it in some sort of gallery experience, one of the first to be doing it, I think it's just going to like inspire others to do more. And then me to go, holy shit, I got to one up that too. And so we're just going to keep creating and keep thinking of unique and interesting ways to use it. It's a piece of technology, just like anything else, a tool. It's another paintbrush. And so like, you're asking me when I'm going to paint tomorrow or who's going to paint what tomorrow. Like, I have no idea, but I know I'm going to see some new shit next year, 5 years from now. It's going to be really dope.
Awesome. So thank you very much, Allo, for being here today. And I think we have got so many things to talk about, but we are going to have another podcast maybe soon. And so wish you all the best for your drop with crypto.com, and I'll keep you following online and see what is going on.
Thank you. I appreciate your time.